Well, welcome in. I hope you are doing well. I hope your game is going well. If not, that's okay. It's only a few days in. I'm sure you're doing fantastic. Make sure to drink plenty of water. I'm going to take a sip first myself as well. And then I say, let's get started. So, if you don't know, we're hosting a game jam right now, where in a month we're gonna make a visual novel. You can either join this game jam solo or in a team, whichever you prefer. And we're making a visual novel. And visual novels, it's a very popular genre, but it's also quite niche. It might not be as familiar. Oh, you're absolutely welcome, Doja. I'm so happy to have you. You're more than welcome to. Yeah. No, we used oh, thank you, Jeffrey. Yes, that's the game jam. We used the tickets to sort of get an idea of how many people would show up, so we could prepare properly for the workshops. But they're all free to attend, so that's all good.
Hi, Toads.
What happened? Thank you for following. Oh, the wait, we have the notification twice. Anyway, I'll get Alana to. Hey, Devin, welcome in. It's so good to have you. Right. So we're hosting a game jam, and the idea is to make a visual novel. The theme is memory, which honestly could be anything like some. Oh, I'm really sorry, Eunice. I did not manage to get the closed captions working, and I don't know how. Oh, hydrate. Sorry. Are you able? Okay. Okay. I'm really sorry. I promise next stream we'll have them set up. I'll contact Alana about it after stream. Thank you for pointing that out. I hope you'll be able to follow the workshop, and I will post a presentation in our Discord after, so if you've missed anything, hopefully that will clear things up. So if you don't know, I'm Maya, my pronouns are she, her, and I'm the community manager for Team Toadhouse and Toadhouse Games. We're a self-care clubhouse for gamers. Exactly, thank you, Jeffrey. And Toadhouse Game is our visual novel indie studio where we make games to destigmatize mental health. Our first game released earlier this year. It's called Good Looking Home Cooking. If you want, you can get it on itch right now. I'm sure Jeffrey will give you a link. So onto the workshop. I'm going to be telling you a few things. What a visual novel is. How they sort of came about. They have a really interesting history, at least I thought so. And sort of the different kinds of visual novels that exist. So, what even is a visual novel? It's debatable what exactly a visual novel is. Also, like, if any of you have questions during the stream, please feel free to ask and I'll try to answer them. And afterwards, obviously, we'll have time for questions. So, us at Toadhouse, we've defined a visual novel as following. A visual novel is a game with meaningful story-driven choices as the core game mechanic. Visual novels are characterized by their flat backgrounds with the speaking character visible on screen. So, one of the examples here is a screenshot from our game Good Looking Home Cooking. On the right, you can see the food truck court background, and you see a text where Jessica says, "The restaurant business is tough, but we are tougher." And the key is sort of the way visual novels are now, mostly, this is all, again, quite generalized, is you have that background and the characters get sort of, put onto the background as opposed to being a part of it, if that makes sense. So how did we get to the modern looking visual novel on the right? It started with adventure games, actually. Oh, be sure to drink some water. It started with adventures games. These were around the 80s. They were really popular in the United States. On the left, you see one, Mystery House. It's from 82. As you can see, it's a game with white and black as the colors. These were often murder mysteries or other kinds of mysteries, and the goal was to sort of look through the environment and find clues for whatever mystery you were solving. And they were like sort of the main influence for visual novel, I should say. So it starts with the game Portopi's Serial Murder Case. It's from '82. Creator Yuji Horii, he took inspiration from American horror games like the one I just showed, and this was a murder mystery games. And sort of what's key here is that the focus wasn't that much on narrative yet. So these are very much puzzle games. You're solving a mystery, which is a chain of a bunch of puzzles together, and they have a narrative to make them sort of make sense, essentially. Like if you have a bunch of random puzzles, that's fine, but if they're connected to a mystery, then the logic throughout the puzzles is consistent, and it makes more sense to you as the player, hopefully. So yeah, they're not as focused on narrative yet, but what was key is the art style. And I don't necessarily mean the art direction, but the way the art was used. As you can see, there were investigation scenes in this game, so you could choose who you would interrogate. And you would have this interrogation room, and the person you would interrogate would sort of be put onto the background. So you could choose Fumi or Mr. Komiyatoshi, whichever, and they would be put into the same background. And that is essentially what we know visual novels to do now. So as adventure games sort of evolved through the 80s, I'm just gonna drink some water real quick. Are there any questions so far? Do feel free to stop me if you want. So around the 90s, adventure games, also because consoles developed more, the art style was allowed to be more detailed. You can sort of see the art developing towards what we know today, where you have a background with a character in a dynamic pose, very much in the foreground. L.A. Noire ripped off the Portopi's Serial Murder Case so hard. Oh, really? I didn't know that. Yeah, Jeffrey, I thought it was so interesting to research that adventure games were such a big influence on visual novels. I didn't know either. But you can see the dynamic poses really being prevalent here. But sort of the key difference here still with modern visual novels is that these images are one image. So the character is drawn into the image as opposed to put onto it, which means you can't change the pose, essentially. Like this, if you see the girl on the right in the pink dress, that is how her pose is in this scene, and they would sort of transition between different images, meaning they were much more like comic books and manga in that time. They conveyed their movement through changing the image as opposed to changing the character, whereas later on there was possibility for a bit more change in character but still keep the background. So after that came dating sims, which were sort of the first visual novels with very explicit choices. Princess Tomato and the Solid Game, right? I didn't know either. It's such a fantastic title. So what dating sims did is they changed the setting to be much more ordinary. So what I mean by that is not fantasy, but more day-to-day normal life like you know. So for example, a high school, whereas you're a kid going to high school and you're trying to date people. Just gonna get some water. Next to that, there's more explicit choices. So then the adventure games definitely allowed you to make choices, for example, choosing who you interrogate, but they less so impacted the narrative. Whereas here, your relationship with the character was really defined by your choices. This game, this screen grab, by the way, is from Tokimeki Memorial, which was a dating sim by Konami. And one of the things here is that the characters are more dynamic. So this is where the background, foreground character comes in, where in theory, any character can be in any location. So this is what the writers wanted. But that means you need to sort of... Hi, John. Welcome back. We're talking about dating sims. So that means to make that successful, you can't draw sort of this art with every character in 6 different poses. That's going to be a lot of assets. So they sort of pasted the characters onto the background in-game, which allowed for more poses because you can change between the poses. And so there's essentially animation happening. So this is sort of where the visual novels became more dynamic. Thanks, John. And where it's more like, the visual novel today. So what's interesting is that visual novels, how we know them now, are often compared to comic books and manga, which is not wrong. But in a way, there's more parallels to be drawn with theater performances, because the visual novels, the way they're made like this, they're essentially quite abstract. You're meant to fill in a lot of blanks, especially about sort of the environment, about the characters. They convey a lot of emotion, but it's not explicit like, say, a 3D character would be. So if you have this guy in Revolutionary Girl Utena from '98, I think he's in a mansion and he's standing there looking a bit sad or serious. He says, this monkey came over to my place carrying this sword and challenged me. But we don't know where in his room, at least this room, he is. He could be sitting in a corner, or he could be waiting at the door. That is sort of left up to us, which makes it a bit more like theater in that sense. It's more so up to the player to fill in what it means. So it's interesting because the early visual novels with the explicit art, it was much more clear what they meant in a way, because the art was so detailed, as opposed to here where the characters are put onto the background. So yeah, before I move on, any more questions? Be sure to drink some water. I'm glad I am. So, LGBTQ games. Historically, queer, I'm going to say queer games from now on. Queer games or queer creators have often made visual novels. The first known queer game was Caper and the Castro, which was released in '98. It is considered the first LGBTQ visual novel. It's a point-and-click detective game by C.M. Rolfe. You play as a lesbian detective called Tracker McDyke, and they're searching for a missing woman. And this game is a tribute to the LGBTQ community in San Francisco, and it included a lot of puns and references, and there's a villain named Delican Straight Man, which I thought was really funny. So one thing of note though, according to the Asian Visual Novel Database, is everything okay? According to Visual Novel Database, this is not the first visual novel. There's a lot of untranslated Asian visual novels that weren't translated to English, but this is one of the first, so we're gonna run with that. So why would you make a visual novel? Why do queer people gravitate to visual novels so much? One of the things is that a visual novel is relatively accessible to make, especially nowadays. Back then, back in the 90s, it might have been a little harder because not everyone had as easy access to a computer, but even then, they didn't require as much programming skill. So nowadays, one of the appealing things is you don't have to deal with physics or network programming or anything like that. And they also require relatively little assets. You could go as far as make a game with one background and one character if you wanted to. Yeah, it's relatively easy to other video games and little assets. There's the engine RenPy, which does also all the back coding for you and leaves you to sort of fill in the blanks of the changing the scenes and doing the writing, which helps a lot. And what also is the case is marginalized identities might not have the resources or time to make a really large games, but if you have a story to tell, then a visual novel is a very good one because it's so story focused and you can just focus on the writing. It is like writing a book, but it's not quite because it's interactive and you can put the person a little more in the shoes of the character in a way than a book might. It's all up to the person who creates it, of course. And that is everything. If you have any more questions, John says, would it be fair to say that it's one of the less technically complex genres to work with in terms of programming anyway? I can program a platform perfectly happy, but I haven't a hope of drawing a bust for a VN. Yeah, I think that's a fair thing to say, John, because, if you make a platformer, you have to learn how to move your character. You have to learn how to make your character jump. You have to learn about gravity, maybe animation. See, that's already a list of things. Whereas a visual novel, you need a text box, a background, a way to change between the backgrounds, and a way to put sprites on the background. I'm curious, what was everyone's first visual novel? Great question, Jeffrey. I'm trying to think. I think mine must have been Phoenix Wright then. I played that back in, 2010 probably. That was ages ago. Because Phoenix Wright, it's a visual novel, but it has a lot of adventure. It sort of goes back to being an adventure game, which now that I think about it, I find really interesting. It has a lot of what you would think now visual novel elements, but it has a lot of that adventure game part too. Homestuck, that's a great one. File chat. I've never played a visual novel before, but there was an attempt to create one with some friends a while ago, but I'm sure they've abandoned it. Doja says, I think the only visual novel I've played is Good Looking While Cooking. I mean, that's a great choice. Phoenix Wright was the first visual novel I played too. Well, the first one I'm willing to own up to playing. Some visual novels feature complex mini games. Yeah, you're right, Argulat. A visual novel isn't restricted to dialogue and choices. You can absolutely add mini games. And please, if you feel like doing that for your jam game, that is absolutely fine. But do keep in mind your well-being and the amount of time you have. Life is Strange aren't visual novels. I'm not familiar with Life is Strange enough to say that, but I guess not. Yeah, you walk around, so then it wouldn't be classified as a visual novel because it is. You're not necessarily in control of the character themselves. You change locations, but you can't really move around in the room itself. Like if you have the arcade here, I can't go walking around in the arcade. I can look at it, if that makes sense. It's a lot like those Telltale games. Yeah, that makes sense. Life is Strange is a walking simulator. Yeah, that would make sense. Does Ace Attorney Investigation not count as a visual novel? Actually, John, I think it wouldn't. By our definition, I don't think it would be a visual novel, no. Thank you so much, though. That's really sweet. Yeah, I think Ace... So if you've not played Ace Attorney Investigations, you play as Miles Edgeworth, the prosecutor from the previous games. And you walk around and investigate, and there's also some trial parts, but you're quite in control of the character. Yeah, I think Telltale games will be one step removed from a visual novel because they're very story heavy and full of choices, but all have actual controls and movement. Yeah, that makes sense. It's a very fine line, and there's so much to do with games now that you could spend days, hours, years probably defining what an exact genre is, which could be really interesting. But yeah, I think that is. I think the lack of movement is one of the key parts of a visual novel. Does anyone have any other questions? Necrobarista. I've heard of that. I've not played it. I'm looking up design. Nightbot is still timing out the RGS bot. Goodness. They're having a fight still, aren't they? So let me change real quick. I'm curious, do you have a sense of where visual novels are going in the future? Are there new key features that they didn't have before? Oh goodness. That is a very interesting question, Jeffrey. And you're really like catching me off guard there, but that's alright. Oh, do I have to like make broad claims about the future of a whole genre? Can I say that I don't know much about the music and visual novels, but I would love for there to be more dynamic music. Oh yes, of course. Call Me Sarah is going to take the industry by guard, which is new approach to mental health and friendship. Argulax asks, when working on a visual novel, do you find it best to have like a flowchart map of how the story can play out? Yes. So what we've done with Call Me Sarah and the other vignettes, we made the game entwine first to get an overview, and then sort of have a roadmap, sort of a rough outline with all the important choices of the game. So if we take Good Looking Home Cooking without spoiling it, Jessica and Amira start off with their food court, and then there's like 3 or so major choices throughout the game. So you would like write down those choices. So it's give the bubble tea, talk to I forgot her name. Goodness. Talk to the lady in Sudoku Cafe and talk to Jessica or Amira, my bad. And those are like the anchor points of your visual novel, and you can sort of work towards them and have in between dialogue. That's really lovely. No, Sarah. Nice. Imani, that's the one. Imani works at Sudoku Cafe. That's it. So yeah, you would have sort of an outline. The first thing you'd start doing when making a visual novel. Good question. So personally, I would sort of start quite big. So let's say you're gonna make a game about a little girl goes to the theater. We had that last week as well. A little girl goes to the theater with her parents, and she gets lost, and then she wants to have pizza, something like that. So that's sort of 3 points already. You're going to the theater. You've got a setting. You've got the theater entrance, the stage, and the pizza stand. You've got 3 characters and maybe the person at the pizza stand, so 4. And then sort of start developing the characters. I think having the characters developed is really important because it's such a character-heavy game. So this little girl, she must be 8 years old, maybe 10, and she really likes drawing, and that's why she likes to go to the theater. And they're going to see what's a fun theater show? They're going to see Hamilton. I'm sorry, that is really funny. Very good, Paper. So, Paper Cut Doctor says, a little girl goes to the theater with her parents, and then her parents get mugged and shot in an alleyway, and she resolves to dress up as a bat and fight crime. Hell yeah, Batwoman. Fight crime for pizza, honestly. Sarah is kind of supposed to sound like Sarah, you're right, File Chat, and it's also based on Triceratops, the dinosaur. Punch and Judy, I've not heard of that. Make sure to drink some water. You know what, if I could get paid in pizza, I would be down for that. You do not play as a dinosaur in Call Me Sarah, although that would be a fun twist if Sarah turned out to be actually a Triceratops. You know, maybe we'll do that one day. We could. That is a possibility. Yeah, if I remember correctly, it's based on The Land Before Time. Yes, John, you're right. I'll pass it on to the other devs and see what they think. You know, y'all can just make a dinosaur visual novel, right? Nothing is stopping you. Maybe the little girl is going to a theater performance about dinosaurs, and then it goes to like the point of view of the dinosaurs, and suddenly you're back in the when dinosaurs were alive. Someone run with this idea, please. Call Me Sarah, basically Hateful Boyfriend, but with dinosaurs. Fantastic. you would have to draw a dinosaur. But they don't have to be accurate dinosaurs. They can just be, you know, if they're just a little sketch, that's absolutely fine. Dinosaurs can go squawk, this is true. Oh, that makes sense, Paper Cut. Thank you for clarifying. I appreciate it. So if you aren't aware, we have a bunch more workshops. Oh, John. Yeah, we have a bunch more workshops planned. I've got them open here. My apologies for the... It's not quite aligned, is it? There we go. The little girl plays with dinosaurs when she's not fighting crime. Honestly, I love it. She plays with dinosaurs and then we get to see how she plays them out. Or maybe it starts from the dinosaurs, but then it turns out to be the little girl playing, kind of like the Lego movie. We have so many possibilities. So on July 7th, which is this Wednesday, yeah, please put a dinosaur in your game. I can't give you, there's no prizes in this jam, but I will be very happy if you put a dinosaur in your game. So, you know, you get my eternal gratitude. So if you're using RenPy or just would like to learn more about RenPy, Alana will be hosting a coding workshop for that on Wednesday. And if you're an artist or if you want to get better at drawing or anything, if you just want to watch a stream, honestly, you don't have to be anything. Dinosaur is a distant memory, it all fits. Yes, you're correct, Papa. There's going to be a background and characters workshop on the 11th, which is going to be how to draw backgrounds and characters, which is obviously really important. And on July 17th, it's me again, with Kirk, the composer for Call Me Sarah and our other vignettes. And together with him, we're going to be writing a song together with chat. So we'll be asking you for suggestions on like the mood and the instruments, stuff like that. And together we'll be writing a little song, probably around a minute long. And the song that we make it in that workshop, you are free to use in your own game if you want. But no obligation at all. You can use whatever art or music you want. Will the streams stay online? Yes, the videos will stay online and they'll also later be uploaded to YouTube. I like not being anything and still watching. That's lovely though. You're absolutely welcome to watch these streams. They're free for anyone. You don't have to participate in the jam if you don't want to or don't have the time. That's absolutely okay. Participation badge, so everyone gets one. And of course, everyone, if you like, you get a participation badge no matter what. All of you, if you showed up on stream, or if you joined the jam, or if you said hi in Toadhouse, they're not physical badge. They're just my gratitude in the form of a Triceratops. So yeah. Does anyone have any more questions? Thank you, File. I appreciate it. The Triceratops of gratitude. Yes, that is fantastic. I am very hungry. I played tennis earlier, so I need some food in a minute. Thank you for asking. So yeah. if there's no more questions, then I will bid you all goodbye. That was your last question. Lovely. I appreciate you asking. We love looking out for our fellow toads, which also means me. Even though I work here, I do need to eat and drink water. So that's what.
Hi, toads.
Thank you for follow, John. I appreciate it. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it.
Hi, toads.
I will see you all in the Discord. Please come say hi if you haven't joined yet. And look, tomorrow, don't forget, tomorrow at the same time as this stream, so 3 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. GMT, we have our game night and we're gonna play Jackbox. So if you're into that, feel free to join. You don't have to do anything, you have to say anything. You can turn off your mic if you want. Don't worry if you think you're not funny enough for Jackbox. I promise you are funny enough. So please show up if you want to, and if not, I will see you around. Thank you for joining. Bye. Yes, game night is also on Discord. Thank you, Jeffrey. Bye, dudes.